Hello and welcome to this session on questionnaire design. This is a course on business research methodology. I'm your instructor Rajesh Durbala. I'm an assistant professor in business analytics and research methodology. So let's see what's in store for today's session. First objective for today's session is to understand the meaning and importance of questionnaires, understand 3 stages of the questionnaire design process, learn about pre-construction phase of questionnaire, learn about construction phase of the questionnaire, learn about the post-construction phase of the questionnaire. So in total what is happening is the last 3 objectives are the various stages of the questionnaire development. Okay, so this is pre-construction, during the construction and post-construction. So overall today we are going to learn the basics of conducting a survey and conducting or creating a questionnaire. Okay, so are you ready? I'm excited. Let's move on. So what's a questionnaire? A questionnaire consists of formalized and pre-specified set of questions designed to obtain responses from potential respondents. Okay, what do you understand by this? This simply means a questionnaire is a very specific set of questions which have been, let us say, vetted, which have been formalized, and which have been put in a specific structure so as to remove the subjectivity of the researcher. So it is the keywords that you have to remember is it is formalized and it's a pre-specified set of questions. Okay, and the purpose of it is to obtain responses from potential respondents. Questions in the questionnaire reflect the research objective under investigation. So the questions that go in a questionnaire need to fulfill certain objectives in the investigation or to fulfill certain objectives of our research. Moreover, the questionnaires are generally situation and culture specific. Okay, so moreover, the moment you look into a questionnaire, they are primarily trying to investigate a specific situation or maybe probably a culture. Okay, and then questionnaire design process requires a careful attention to each step, as the questionnaire or research instrument should be adapted to the specific cultural environment and should not be biased in terms of any one culture. So what the entire thing probably means is the questionnaire has to be very objective, and it has to be adapted to suit the cultural needs or the cultural environments, and there shouldn't be any element of bias. Okay, so this entire thing had been propounded by Malhotra, that is Naresh Malhotra. So this is the basic definition and basic criteria or qualities of a questionnaire. Moving on, the questionnaire design process, as we have discussed in the objectives, it has 3 processes or 3 phases, that is the pre-construction phase, the construction phase and the post-construction phase. Okay, we'll discuss in detail each one of them. So this is the entire diagram that you have to understand. There are 3 parts, that is part 1 is pre-construction, part 2 is construction phase, part 3 is the post-construction phase. Okay, so we'll understand each step in detail. Now phase 1, pre-construction phase. In phase 1, the pre-construction phase, what's happening is it consists of 3 steps. Okay, and the 3 steps that go into the pre-construction phase are as follows. The first one that could be said is to specify the required information in the light of research objective. Okay, so you have to specify, you have to be very clear, you have to be very specific about the requirements from the research objective. Okay, and the second one could be an overview of the respondents' characteristics. You have to be very clear, okay, what should be the characteristics of the respondent. And the third one is decision regarding selecting an appropriate survey technique. You have to choose a survey technique much before plunging into the actual survey process. Okay, so all the 3 of the things, that is what are the various informations required to cater to the need of the objectives of the research, and number 2, you have to highlight the qualities or the characteristics of the respondent, and number 3, you need to select an appropriate survey technique. So these three go into the pre-construction phase. So this is the details of the three things that we have already discussed. Okay, so if you wish, you can pause the video and give it a reading. That will be giving you a better insight into it. And then this is again respondents' characteristics. As I told you, what are the various characteristics of the respondent? You have to highlight them. You have to get a brief idea, or not even a brief, you need to get the detailed idea of what could be or what should be the demographics, okay, of the respondents. And the number 3 is you have to specify an appropriate survey technique. Okay, how are you going to conduct this survey? Coming to phase 2, in phase 2 it consists of 6 steps. This is the construction phase. It goes in 6 steps. So what are the various 6 steps that you require? Okay, that is what you have to see. The first one is decision regarding question format. Okay, that is what kind of questions you want to incorporate, structured questions or unstructured questions. Structured questions are very objective. There is no room for subjectivity, whereas the unstructured questions, they are more of qualitative in nature. They want to derive as much of quality observations from the respondent. So the questions from the respondent may vary. Okay, so the questions may vary from respondent to respondent. That's what unstructured questions are. Second is decision regarding question relevance and wording. So you have to very carefully pick each question, and the wording of the question has to be very meticulously planned so that each and every respondent understands the question in the same manner. There is no degree of discrepancy or there is no degree of misunderstanding. The third step is decision regarding question sequencing. Which question has to come first, which next? Okay, you cannot intimidate a respondent by putting in some very personal questions in the beginning. So you need to be very careful in arranging and organizing the questions. Okay, and then decision regarding question response choice. So what should be the response choices? In what manner you are going to present those choices? Okay, that's again very important. Then decision regarding the questionnaire layout. How should be the, or what should be the look and feel of your questionnaire? Should it be looking like a bulky booklet, or should it be looking like a sweet and short small little form? So you have to decide on all those aspects. Producing first draft of the questionnaire. Okay, so before you get into the entire process of converting or getting into the survey, you need to understand, get a rough draft of your questionnaire. Okay, so these are the detailed steps of the 6 steps that we have discussed. You can pause the video and read them for further clarifications. Okay, so these are what is the examples of open-ended questions. What is your favorite advertisement for a soft drink? Okay, it can vary from respondent to respondent. Okay, these are some this is about close-ended questions. Either they are multiple choice questions or dichotomous questions. Dichotomous questions are questions which present you only with 2 choices: yes, no, male, female, true, false, agree, disagree, sort of a thing. Okay, so these are some examples of dichotomous questions. These are some multiple choice questions. Okay, so this is the step 2, that is decision regarding question wording. You can pause the video and give it a reading. That will serve the purpose. We have already discussed what do you mean by question wording. Okay, now these are some of the decision parameters regarding question wording. Okay, so the first one, question word must be simple and easy to understand. You shouldn't be using fancy jargon. So avoid any kind of a fancy words or difficult vocabulary. Vague or ambiguous words must be avoided. you shouldn't be using vague or ambiguous words. Okay, people shouldn't be misguided, or people shouldn't be misunderstanding your words. Avoid double barrel questions. Okay, what do you mean by double barrel questions? That is to say, you shouldn't be incorporating two questions in a single question. Okay, so avoid that kind of questions. Avoid leading or loaded questions. You shouldn't be guiding or directing the respondent through some leading or loaded questions. Avoid using overstated words. Do not ever use stressed words. Okay, do not emphasize or stress on words that can again create a bias. Implied assumptions must be avoided. Don't ever assume that respondent would understand. You have to be very specific about each and everything. Respondent's memory should not be overtaxed. Do not stress on the memory of the respondent. Okay, generalizations and estimations must be avoided. That's quite obvious. And respondent's ability to answer must be considered. You cannot be asking something related to rocket science or nuclear bombs from a nursery grade kid. Okay, so that's what you have to understand. Moving ahead, next thing, question wording must be simple and easy to understand. These steps are repeated and explained in great detail with examples, so you can pause the video and get into the examples. This is vague or ambiguous words. When you say very much, much, reasonably well, less, very less, these are again very confusing words. Okay, now double barrel questions. You can see that on weekend, would you prefer an outing with your family, and which is your favorite outing spot in your town? So there are two questions in the same, so you have to split it up into two questions. That is, question 1, on weekend, would you prefer an outing with your family? And question 2, if yes, then which is your favorite outing spot in the town? So you cannot ask two different questions in the same question. The respondent would be confused which to answer and which not to. Okay, avoid leading and loaded questions. So you shouldn't be using leading. See, aren't you satisfied with the new feature of the product? The moment you are saying this, okay, this is already assuming or presuming that the respondent isn't satisfied with the new feature of the product. And loaded question, every patriotic Indian will like to prefer an Indian brand of soap. Now when you say patriotic Indian, that itself is a loaded word. Okay, so what you are trying to do is you are creating a bias. Then you have the split ballot technique. So avoid these. This is again a continuation of these leading questions. Okay, you can pause the video and you can read it. Basically, if you ask me what's the summary of this, then I can simply say a split ballot technique is used to avoid bias due to positive or negative aspects of a question. Okay, so you have to construct your questions in a very objective manner. This is example. A fully automatic machine is better than semi-automatic washing machine. Now if you put this, this is very difficult. Okay, now reverse the phrasing of the same question can be provided to other group as follows. Now you can use the same question in the reverse order to a different set of respondents. That is, a semi-automatic washing machine is better than the fully automatic washing machine. Now avoid using overstated words. Okay, you can see the example over here. Okay, simply implied assumptions. Don't ever assume. Do you think company A should continue? How can you assume that? The respondent must be aware of all these things. Okay, so simply you can just say, do you like a discount scheme on bulk purchases as provided by company A? Okay, then you are taxing the respondent's memory. You can just look into the example. In the past 2 months, how many times you have eaten ice cream of brand X with your family? Now, how the hell I remember what I had or what kind of an ice cream I had 2 months ago? That's, taxing my memory. Then generalizations should be avoided. Okay, you should even you should be considerate about the respondent's ability to answer. Okay, then this is the step 3, decision regarding question sequencing. Okay, how do you sequence? What is the logical sequencing of the questions? Now just see. Now this is how you take decisions regarding question sequencing. Okay, first step is screening questions, then number 2, opening questions, number 3, transition statements, difficult to answer questions, identification and categorization questions, and logical order of questioning. Got it? So let us understand each one of them in detail. Screening questions. Now these are the questions which filter out the respondents. Okay, it will only, the purpose of this is to identify your target respondents. Okay, now just give it a reading. Researchers generally begin with some screening questions to make sure that the target respondent is qualified for the interview. So through this or these questions, I can easily identify whether the respondent fits my criteria or not. Okay, so through these questions, you have to carefully draft these questions to and ensure that the respondent fits your bill. And opening questions. In opening questions should be simple, warm, encouraging, and shouldn't be intimidating. Okay. Then transition statements. When I say a mineral water bottle manufacturer, manufacturing company is encouraged with expanding market. The company wants to access the potential future market and hence conducted a survey on non-users. Its researchers have identified various variables to get the potential use, of which awareness and taste are important. Now it has prepared the first 11 questions, with the first 5 questions based on the awareness and the next 6 questions on taste. After asking the first set of 5 questions, a researcher moves to the second set of 6 questions to get the potential consumer feeling for mineral water taste. Thus, before asking the next set of 6 questions, a transition statement is required to make the respondent familiar with the coming questions. Hence, a transition statement. Now, I would like to understand your opinion about mineral water taste. Will develop respondents' connectivity for the next set of 6 questions. Clear? So, to put it in summary, when your questionnaire is split into 2 parts, okay, like one is the awareness levels, the second is about the preferences of the taste. So in that case, whenever you are shifting from awareness to taste, or the questions are shifting from awareness to taste, the respondent should be informed about the transition. This makes the respondent mentally prepared for the questions that ensue. Okay. Then comes the difficult to answer questions. So you should be keeping these sensitive or complicated questions at the latter part of the questionnaire. Okay, and this will, if let us say, if you put them in the beginning, the respondent could be intimidated and this could terminate the interview altogether. Okay. Then identification and categorization questions. These are simply to capture the demographics. Okay. Again, many a times these can be capturing some sensitive information. So avoid not to put them in the beginning, because this may intimidate the respondent. Now, the logical order of the questioning, it has to follow a logical sequence. Okay. Now there are 3 techniques that you have to understand, that is tunnel technique, work technique, and section techniques. Okay. Funnel technique, the way it suggests asking general questions at the first and then specific questions at the latter part. Okay. Work technique suggests that difficult to answer questions or sensitive or complicated questions should be kept or placed at the latter part of the questionnaire. And the third technique is the section technique, in which the different questions or different set of questions are put in different sections with a common base. Okay. Now, decision regarding question response choice, that is the step 4. Now, it is very important to understand that too many response choices will burden the respondent and he or she will be perplexed while answering. Okay, the more number of questions you are asking, the respondent would be burdened, he would be confused, and few response choices will not be able to cover all range of possible alternatives. So you are walking a tightrope. You can't keep fewer number of questions, and at the same time you cannot ask as many questions as possible. So as a general rule, the researchers present a question with 5 to 7 response alternatives. Okay, so you have to understand that you should be providing around 5 to 7 alternatives, and that's ideal. Now, the decision, the step 5, that is decision regarding the questionnaire layout, how your questionnaire should be looking at. This is just the appearance of the questionnaire. Okay, there is a common saying that the questionnaire or the letter must sell itself. So the moment the recipient receives it, he should be motivated to answer your questionnaire. Then producing the first draft, make a rough copy of it, and it should have a very professional look. Print it on a good quality paper. Then post construction phase, that's the final phase. It has again 4 steps. One is pre-testing of the questionnaire. The moment you have created a rough draft of your questionnaire, you need to pre-test it. Okay, you need to pre-test it on a small sample of respondents in order to see the kind of a data being captured. Are there any objections? Are there any complications, or are there any interpretation issues with the questions? Then revisiting the questionnaire based on the inputs obtained from the pre-testing. So whatever the respondents have given, whatever feedback you have received on the questionnaire in the pre-testing phase, you have to rework the questionnaire and resolve those issues, revising final draft of the questionnaire, and then administering the questionnaire and obtaining responses. Okay, so this is again whatever has been discussed earlier. You can pause the video and give it a reading. Okay, so this is again the pre-testing of the questionnaire. It is continued. Then step 2 would be, you have to rework on the questionnaire based on the responses that you have received, based on any complications or misinterpretations that are happening with your original questionnaire. And then redraft or revised final draft is produced. You had to insert something or delete something. Now you should understand that at this stage your questionnaire should be ready to administer. And finally, administration of the questionnaire and obtaining responses. Okay, you have to now administer and then obtain the responses. In chapter 9 we'll describe data preparation and data coding. Okay, how to prepare your data and how to code your data. In chapter 10 to 18, all the detailed discussion will be related to data analysis. Okay, what kind of statistical tools and techniques are available to prepare your data and to analyze your data would be discussed in those chapters. Okay, you can get in touch with me on LinkedIn, Facebook, and on Twitter. You can write to me directly at rajeshdurbala@gmail.com. I would appreciate if you write any comments, if you request me any kind of a further information, any help. I would like you to post them in the comments. If you like any notes, if you wish to have some practice problems, you can definitely put them in my comments. I will definitely love to respond to your comments. It was nice interacting with you, and thank you for your attention. Have a good day.